I apologise for the lack of content on this channel recently. I've had a few big personal issues. My son was quite seriously ill in December, ended up in hospital. While all that was going on, I couldn't do anything on YouTube. Once he came out of hospital, I was then quite badly ill myself with bronchitis. That knocked me out for almost a month. My wife works. I'm responsible for running the house, taking kids to school, picking them up, and doing whatever is necessary around the house. I also have 2 other YouTube channels, and I don't do much on those either, but I just try to do enough to keep them ticking over. So unfortunately, there are times in my life when I just don't have the time for YouTube. Anyway, to try to make amends, I thought I'd do a few Hat Yai updates today. And the first is regarding the weather. And since I've been living in Thailand, I've noticed that the weather is quite predictable. The last 3 months of the year are very wet, October, November, December. And then the weather breaks almost magically on the 1st of January. And then January is normally very hot and dry, and that hot and dry weather lasts for several months. Well, this year it hasn't happened. There's been a lot of rain so far this January. This week has been quite miserable, and there was another huge storm last night. So if you're planning to be in Hat Yai fairly soon, it could still be wet, but it's very, very unusual for the rain to last as long as this. So I would expect the weather to break very, very soon. Chinese New Year is coming early this year, and as I've mentioned before, many local Thais in Hat Yai are ethnic Chinese, and many of the visitors from Singapore and Malaysia are also ethnic Chinese. So therefore, Chinese New Year in Hat Yai is a big thing, and the local municipality organise a lot of events over that period. A good place to go is Supasan Rangsan Road. You'll see a lot of stuff going along there all through Chinese New Year. I was there recently, and they seem to be constructing a big archway, which I guess is in preparation for Chinese New Year. And as this article says, another important place is the Sinakon Foundation School. Many early settlers in Hat Yai were Chinese, such as Mr. Kim Yong, who the famous market is named after. And they acquired a lot of land, and they also donated land. And I believe that the land for Sinakon School was donated by Mr. Kim Yong. And outside there's a big sign saying that inside there's a Chinese cultural centre. I haven't been yet, but I should go sometime. So that's another important place if you want to enjoy the festivities over Chinese New Year in Hat Yai. The next update is less positive. And you might wonder to yourself whether Thailand is a safe country. And generally, I do find Thailand to be safe. I was back in the UK briefly in 2023, and I stayed with my brother who lives in central London. And I've always had a good sixth sense, a good gut instinct. And my sixth sense was constantly warning me about people on the street. The immigration situation in the UK is just ridiculous. The governments have operated this open borders policy for years. Thousands of people arriving on boats. The authorities know nothing about their backgrounds. They don't know if they've got a criminal record or what their motives are. And there's a lot of crime in the UK. There's a lot of knife crime, and apparently now on some London streets they've got these arches that people walk through like airports to detect whether they've got knives. And it really is a scary place. In Thailand, in 21 years, my gut instinct has only told me once about a problem. It's a long time ago, before I was married. I was in Chumpon on a songthaew, and there was another guy on the songthaew who just made me feel very uncomfortable. So I took note of my gut instinct. I rang the bell, got off, and then just waited for the next songthaew. But generally, it's not a problem. However, there's one very worrying thing about Thailand, and it's not that unusual. Since I've been here, I've read several similar stories. And it's just people like will just go crazy at times and then start shooting other people. And I've always referred to this as the red mist. You know, they get into a situation where the red mist just descends and they just lose control of everything and start going crazy. And it happened in Hat Yai in December. There was a guy who went into a restaurant, and apparently he was a defence volunteer. So he's a person that will have like legal access to a gun. And he went in there. He had his food, and then he went out. And the waiter thought that he'd left, so he cleared the table. And then the guy come back in, and he was annoyed that the waiter had cleared the table. So then he goes out to his car, gets his gun, comes back in, and starts shooting. I think he shot eight shots. Anyway, there was a young family in there celebrating a boy's birthday. Parents and 2 children. I mean, killed both parents, so now the poor kids are orphans. It's just this thing. It really concerns me about Thailand. And as I say, I've read articles like this several times over the years. Thais are non-confrontational. You know, they will try to avoid confrontation most of the time, which is quite a good thing, because confrontation isn't pleasant. The problem is that when they do get into confrontations, because it's a non-confrontational society, they don't know how to handle it. They can't sort of see the problem from the other person's perspective. They can't come to some sort of an agreement. It seems that, you know, the only way for them to solve that problem is to kill the other person. And there's a lot of guns in Thailand, and it happens fairly often. Speaking to my wife about this incident, and her take is that, you know, if you're outside and you have any kind of a problem at all with another person, you just don't do anything. You just ignore it and walk away, because you never know if the other person has got a gun. And if they do have a gun, a lot of them are stupid enough to use it. So just one thing to be careful of in Thailand. I think it's an aspect of Thailand that very, very few foreigners are aware of. I certainly wasn't aware of this as a tourist in Thailand. It's only since I've been living in Thailand I've become aware of this type of thing. So yeah, just be a little bit careful. Another less than positive article, and if I were to ask you which city in Thailand has the worst traffic congestion, you'd probably say Bangkok, and so would I. But it's not. It's Hat Yai. And the blame is being put on the hundreds of thousands of Malaysian tourists who cross the border every week. So what it says is that to travel 10 kilometres in Hat Yai, on average, takes 24 minutes and 12 seconds. And I can assure you that at times it's a lot worse than that. In August, the Prince of Songkhla University has its Science Week, which is attended by school kids from all over southern Thailand. There's hundreds of thousands of kids descend on the university, and they all come in big coaches. And I took my daughter to the event last year, and it took me about 2 hours to get from home to the university, and normally it should take less than a half an hour. So am I surprised by this? Well, I'm not surprised that Hat Yai has got bad traffic, because quite often I have to drive in it. I am surprised that it's the worst city in Thailand. So Chiang Mai is number 2, Khon Kaen number 3, and Bangkok comes in at 4th. And regarding all those Malaysian tourists that they're blaming this on, what they tell you is that in the first 11 months of 2024, over 4.5 million Malaysians visited Thailand. And it breaks it down a bit here. I heard from another source that for Christmas and New Year, there were 500,000 Malaysians coming to Hat Yai. What it says here is that over 400,000 visited southern Thailand between the 21st and the 31st of December. When I am driving, there are an enormous number of cars with Malaysian license plates, so it certainly adds to the problem. It's a good thing for all the businesses who get their income from tourism. You know, the more tourists, the better. For just like regular people living in Hat Yai who have to drive and have to contend with traffic jams, it's not so good. Some more bad news, I'm afraid. And Sultan Restaurant, that I did a review of fairly recently, has now closed. I was planning to take my family there for lunch over New Year, so I gave the restaurant a call to see if it was open, and I was told that it's closed permanently. The owner has decided to move his operation to Phuket. Renting a large shop in this area of downtown Hat Yai is very expensive, and you need to do a lot of business to justify that cost. And whenever I walked past, it was either empty or there were very few people there. So I understand why it's been closed. For me personally, it's really sad news. There's not much variety of food in Hat Yai. It's mainly rice and noodles, and I get bored of that quite quickly. And having a Middle Eastern restaurant there was a really great option for me. So I'm really sad to see it go. What's ironic is that previously I couldn't find the second branch within Central Festival. Well, I did find it recently, just as the restaurant was about to close for good. Restaurants open and close in Hat Yai very frequently. A long time ago, I used to run a website about Hat Yai, long before I did anything on YouTube. And I'd do a review of a restaurant, then walk past a few months later and it closed. So then I would have to update the website to that effect. I was talking to a massage shop owner recently, and what she was telling me is it's very, very easy to open a new massage shop, but it's very, very difficult to keep it going in the long term. And I think that applies to all businesses in Hat Yai, including restaurants.